3 years ago, I set out to construct the most powerful nootropic stack for focus, motivation, and sheer cognitive horsepower. I logged hundreds of hours, sampled endless amounts of cognitive performance chemicals, and ran beta tests with soldiers from the United States Army. And after massive experimentation and ruthless trial and error, my work had finally paid off. I found what I was looking for.
You know, one of the things that I came to learn very early on in my time as an entrepreneur is that, and it's why I spend so much time and I have spent so much time meditating, is that literally the difference between myself on a terrible day where I'm not productive and myself on a great day where I am productive is my brain function. That's it. I mean, it's energy and how I slept and all these things, but what we're really talking about is brain function, right? Thyroid function, energy production, but what is the end result? You know, brain function. And so early on in my career as an entrepreneur, I realized my brain works better. I perform better, no question about it. I mean, that's the causative thing. That's the link to pay particular attention to and to try to induce every day, right? Try to induce good energy, good functionality, good mental functionality every day. And so I've been an entrepreneur for 8 years. I started a company in 2010. I failed at many companies before that. I've really probably been an entrepreneur a little longer than that. Just failed for years. 2010, that eventually turned into a full-blown national iOS device services company. I think we even did some international work for some people. We did considerably well in that company. I bootstrapped it from $0 to nearly $250K in annual revenue. We were killing it in our peak. Market changed, a bunch of other stuff happened, and I closed the company recently enough. But I got to tell you, we had to secure a bunch of contracts in the beginning to get deals. And I had to hustle hard in startup mode to get that company making money. In the beginning, we were bleeding capital, then we started making money. No question about it. I was taking effectively what became the Cortex stack to allow my brain to do that. And I was also experimenting with a whole bunch of other nootropic compounds, but particularly uridine monophosphate and CDP-choline in just about the concentrations that we've got in our commercial stack. Cortex, which we now sell in every country, most countries around the world. Still trying to get into Germany and China. There's some tax issues and some other issues. Was responsible for the functionality of my brain. Verbal fluency, mental energy, endurance, working memory, honing in the inclination to work. Those are things you need to be a good entrepreneur and to be a good anybody. Be a good CFO, CMO, assistant to the CFO. Whatever job you do. Like mattress mover in the warehouse, that has to fill out paperwork and deal with understanding things. You need all of those things. You need the verbal fluency to talk to your boss about it, or whatever. You need good brain function. And so there's no question about it. Nootropics, in particular compounds that target neurochemicals in very particular ways, are great for that. So we built a stack effectively for people that are serious about nootropics, serious about taking nootropics, serious about wanting to get benefits from nootropics, and serious about applying their newfound well-functioning neurological state to tasks that allow them to get a whole lot done. So secure a bottle of the Cortex stack being used by business executives, military people, and everybody else in between all around the world at livecortex.com. Again, livecortex.com, for what's being called the only pre-made stack that actually works. Got a shot of the ingredient stuff in the back if you can actually see it. That stuff is on the website. Primarily, we're looking at uridine monophosphate and CDP-choline, very powerful combination. So, how the media gets nootropics wrong. First of all, the media gets everything wrong. They're terrible, right? Most of the media seem to be, they are controlled. What they say, they're largely being controlled. A good example might be if you look at CNN and the company that owns them. If people wonder why CNN has a liberal slant and they tend to agree with Democrats and try to now their favorite thing to do is to put out constant anti-Trump stuff. You'll notice that Time Warner, who owns them, if you do some research on Time Warner, is a very liberal company, and they give 75% of their donations, political donations, to progressive organizations and to Democrats. That was a study done in 2015 by AOL. So that's just one example. I'm not trying to be political or say which political side that I'm on. I like to be a pragmatist in political situations rather than be conservative or Democrat. I'm neither. I'm just trying to look at practical reality. But that's a good indication of how media is controlled. And I think, right, and certain influences, political influences, other influences might be infused into the content. I have a suspicion that some organizations, like particularly the BBC and some others, might have academia as influences, or they might even at the very least want to create content that might cater to what academia wants. And a good example, one of the things that academia does not want is kids taking smart drugs. There's no question about it. There's very many videos on the web and on YouTube that talk about it, like, are smart drugs cheating? And we don't, they use like these nebulous arguments like, we don't know what's going to happen long term if you take them. We have no studies and these sorts of things. It's like, we don't have any studies of what happens when you eat Captain Crunch every day either. But I mean, people do. It's like whatever. But the main thing I want to get across, and I know this pisses a lot of people off because it totally pisses me off and gives nootropics a terrible name. Because you ask people, oh, well, have you ever tried nootropics? And they're like, what, Adderall, Ritalin, right? That's what pisses me off. That the media gets it so wrong, and whenever they talk about smart drugs in college, they talk about Adderall. Okay, this is not a smart drug. It is not a nootropic. Okay, this is not what any of us are talking about when we talk about nootropics. Not even close. The smart nootropics people out there that take nootropics or nootropics, etc., we are trying to target positive modulation of AMPA receptors, right, in a way that improves brain function, positive modulation of dopamine receptors, temporary but reversible increases in epinephrine and norepinephrine, right? And then similar positive modulations of neurochemicals in a way that give us direct, acute, positive benefits in mental functionality, to apply that mental functionality to cerebral tasks to get a better outcome, right? Translation, be more productive by having a better functioning brain. We are not looking to speed up the usage of neurochemicals in an excessive way that depletes them and leaves us feeling terrible with side effects like something like Adderall would do. Adderall is basically terrible. And that's what the media tries to portray nootropics as. I mean, it's basically insane. And again, back to this sort of agenda thing, I really do believe that they try to do that to deter particularly college students from taking nootropics. But what college students are starting to learn, which is fantastic, is that all of that is effectively bullshit, and what we are targeting, what we're really talking about in the nootropics to take, in their cases, are things like alpha GPC, which increases brain acetylcholine, a neurochemical for focus, improves growth hormone for those of you who want to work out, increases phospholipid synthesis like phosphatidylcholine in the brain, compounds like CDP-choline, which convert partially to a compound called uridine, which improves axon and dendrite growth from neurons, right? And attenuates neurodegeneration as you grow older, and increases the release of alertness-based neurochemicals like epinephrine and norepinephrine, these sorts of things, without really super negatively affecting the concentration of those neurochemicals, therefore not giving a bunch of side effects. We're talking about positive modulations of AMPA receptors via aniracetam and or oxiracetam. We're talking about the increased release of a neurochemical called acetylcholine from a region of the brain called the hippocampus, which confers better memory effects, working memory recall effects. We're talking about compounds like huperzine A, which inhibit an enzyme called acetylcholine esterase, which give the brain more free-floating neurochemical called acetylcholine, which allow the memory of a person to work better, them to sit there and take a test and hold more things in their head to do better on the test. And in some regard, yeah, we are talking about modafinil. Modafinil is a pretty safe drug. It's certainly a drug. All these other things I just talked about were not drugs, with the exception of the racetams. But modafinil inhibits GABA, increases the release of serotonin, and then also works on increasing the release of the catecholamines, epinephrine, norepinephrine. And it's wakefulness promoting. And as a result, the most profound thing about modafinil is there really aren't many side effects with modafinil, other than perhaps you'll have a hard time sleeping if you take it after 1 p.m., which is why you should take it in the morning in medium doses. You shouldn't go crazy with it. That's basically it. That's what we're really talking about here. But the media would have you believe that what we're, so like I explain all those things and getting specific about the neurochemical modulation, how that might apply to a particular productive tasks, cerebral tasks. The media makes it like, oh, we're just taking Adderall and getting all pumped up and being all crazy and going and doing work. That's an inaccurate portrayal, which they do very, very well in the media, of nootropics. So that is why the media gets nootropics wrong. I think it's heavily influenced by academia, and they want to discourage students particularly from taking nootropics. And that's essentially it. The media is generally disconnected from much of everything, right? You've got a bunch of theorists, journalists, that's how they are. Journalists end up, just sort of theorizing about the world, thinking they have the intellectual adeptness, I guess, intellectual capacity to sort of ponder on how things are. They're just sort of philosophers without the action, and I've come to learn being an entrepreneur that you really got to be fingernails dirty into the world, really engaging with it to understand how it really works. And that philosophizing is, while I think it's necessary, it's better when coupled with action. It's almost useless without action. And that's what journalists sort of tend to do. So they're looking on the outside at nootropics and they're like, well, I guess it's Ritalin and stuff, and kids are taking like these smart drugs to make their brains like cranked up, but they have side effects like to do better in college. It's like, that's not what's happening. People that take nootropics are very well educated on what's happening neurochemical wise. We try to take as much safe stuff as possible, stuff on the GRAS list, that generally recognized as safe list. And we cycle them properly and these sorts of things. It's much more of a responsible, conscious process of modulating neurochemicals for benefit to improve brain function, and also a very conscious effort to stave off neurodegeneration than it is taking some wild stimulant. Thanks for watching.